Hi, I'm Gail Sabo, and I have put together a series of lectures on the for the teamwork course, the Psychology and Teamwork course. I may or may not be your instructor for this course, but this series of lectures will all be audio, video based, and it's going to highlight some of the important features that are there in your reading. So some people just really enjoy having an audio kind of effect, and it helps to really draw back with their readings and make everything make sense. So these videos are optional. I hope that you listen to them, and I hope that they're helpful. And if they're not and you don't find them helpful, then that's okay too. But we do want to provide them for you to give you yet another way to kind of embrace the lessons of this week. So I'll be doing these throughout your the course. So in each section you will see a video highlighting the most important aspects of those chapters. So let's get started. We're talking about psychology of teamwork in this course, which is a great class. It really is. Regardless of if you're an IDS major or going into some other field, we are all going to be compelled to be working in teams. And realistically, we are working more in teams than we've ever worked before as a workplace. In the days of old, we saw a lot of this kind of vertical structure in our hierarchy in the workplace. And there was the boss and the manager, and everybody took their orders from there. And while we still have leaders in the workplace, and we still have that, what we also have is more horizontal lines in the workplace than we have ever had. We have so many teams and specialists and unique qualities of people that are working together on common projects. So not only that, but we've become a much more global world. So many times you're going to find yourself on distributed teams that may be throughout the whole United States or even the whole world. You may be working on different time frames, you may be working with different cultures. So understanding teamwork and how to have a successful, high-producing, high-effective team is more critical today than it's ever been. So that's why we have the course, and that's why you're here, and hopefully you will get some really great tips and ideas from this course that will help you. So I'm looking forward to helping you on that journey. So one thing to know about teams is that companies are becoming more and more competitive because the world has become so global. It's so easy to compete in somebody else's area. And teams are used to help these organizations to become more and more competitive and more effective. Teams are used to develop new products. They're used to develop new services. They're used to improve quality and within the problem solving problems within the institution as well. And they're really good at tackling complex problems. Each one of us has talents, each one of us has skills, each one of us has intelligence, but it's limited to the scope of what we already know. So by putting a team together, we're able to add a depth to that and are much better at handling complex problems. Successful teams tend to produce more high quality results than people working alone. So even if I had 5 people and I assigned them different things, they will do a better job typically when brought together as part of one team. So it's not just having the right players, it's having the right players work together, and that's what we're going to talk about. A good team accomplishes more collectively than they would working separately, but many teams, however, are not very effective. And in fact, many of them, as many as 9 out of 10 groups are not as effective as they could be. So we want to learn how to embrace that. Then understand, while we're talking mostly about workplace and things like that, this team lessons we're going to help talk about, they can be applied to your family, to your personal life, to teams that you're working on in your own sector. So if you're working on some kind of a special project, or you're working with your church group, or you're working with your Boy Scouts, these same lessons can be applied to that. So hopefully there's something in here for everybody. So why do organizations use teams? Well, one of the things that can happen is you want to get the opinion of many different people. However, we can't do it because there's 300 employees, 400 employees. There's too many people, so it starts to lose its effectiveness. So teams can reflect the larger organization. If you select the right team members, all of them from different roles or from different departments or from different areas, it can help to give a better view of all of the employees. So that's important. It's also important if you're going to be managing teams that you don't, if you're only on one team, that's okay, but if you're putting together multiple teams, you want to have different people on different teams, not that same group on every single team. It helps to have representations from every department because they are representing different ideas and insights that they're bringing forward to that challenge that you're faced with while you're there. Okay, so teams can also accomplish tasks that are too big for one person. There's a lot of tasks out there that are just too large for one person to get through. So having a team gives you more energy, more power, and more resources to tackle that. It gives you more talents as well, which again is really good for those complex problems. It helps to, I may not be good at math, but somebody else is great at math. Somebody else is really great with technology. I'm really good with working with people, and we take all those talents together to divvy up the project in the way that the people work with their talents the best. And it gives you not only more success typically, but also better quality because people get to work within their wheelhouse of what they're really good at. Teams often will reach and will find a broader solution. So when we work by ourselves, again, we're limited to the scope of what we already know. In fact, we don't even know what we don't know. So these teams tend to be have broader solutions, and they tend to have less errors because people are able to see the mistakes of others. So you have more people able to, in a supportive way, resolve those problems before they become bigger problems. Teams create a sense of obligation, commitment, and motivation. And the other thing that's really great about teams is when you have a team decision, when that's brought back to the 300 employees, the 400 employees, whatever, frequently those employees are more invested and more willing to hear it, as opposed to this one person who's always shooting out ideas and doesn't seem to understand me. They don't get me, they don't know where I'm coming from, they never heard my opinion. But when a team comes together, a team that people can trust, they're more likely to accept those decisions and get on board and support those decisions as well. So there's a lot of different types of teams that you might encounter. There's going to be more than we even talk about, but we're going to address some of the basic teams that you would typically see in a workplace. One of those is your basic work group, and this is a group of people working together for some project. Typically they have similar jobs or work in a similar department. So this is our new project, and we're going to work together on that project to solve it. So you're going to see a lot of that. In addition, you might see a committee. A committee is a temporary or sometimes permanent group that is assigned to discuss topics that affect the organization as a whole. So you might have a quality management committee. You might have a safety and security committee. You might have an employee satisfaction committee. So you have a committee of people, frequently from different departments, that come together to discuss a given topic. Sometimes those committees are long-standing, so they may meet 3 or 4 times during the year or throughout different periods of time, and so they will bring back information from their workplace and bring it back to that committee to be addressed. Project teams are a little bit different. They tend to be more time limited, and they're with a specific goal in mind. So the project team can be a variety of people, the best people hopefully for that particular project, that are coming together for the purpose of completing that project. They won't be expected to be going into the future unless they get another project. So their job is to complete a particular project. A little bit different than a task force, which tends to be a little bit more ad hoc. And this is usually a temporary group meant to solve a problem. So you may have a project team or a workplace going on, and there's a problem that occurred, something popped up. What are we going to do with that? So you may gather an ad hoc team that's meant to address that particular element, that particular problem, and then they would disband it, maybe writing a new policy, or setting up a new safety system, or making a purchase. We're going to make a purchase of some new equipment. So that ad hoc team will come together to weigh in on that, and then everybody goes back to their normal teams. Another team would be a self-managed work team, and this is the work group that manages themselves without supervision. So they've been given a task, and they've been told to bring back the results. So rather than a manager being there to set up every meeting and make sure everybody attends and stuff like that, that team will independently manage itself and is responsible for their outcomes. Those are great teams to be on if you have people that are disciplined and wanting to be there. Another type of team would be a special purpose team. And that again is similar to a task force, but oftentimes they will have a more permanent role. So task force ad hoc teams tend to be there for just for a moment to solve something. The special purpose team may be put together to have an ongoing role in the organization. So it could be a recruitment team, it could be a employee motivation satisfaction team, it could be quality assurance teams, can be something like that. But being asked to sit on a particular team for your organization to help enrich that. So hopefully that's helpful. Now, another question that comes up a lot is, what is the difference between a group and a team? And groups and teams are very different. So when we talk about that, one of the biggest things that's different between a group and a team is a sense of shared purpose. Teams have a sense of shared purpose, and that's a test question, so make sure you jot that down somewhere, okay? Groups don't necessarily have a sense of a shared purpose. They're there for a moment, they may be just gathering, they may all be in line together, they may be celebrating something together, but they're not necessarily there with an agenda. Now, in this next clip, I'm going to tell you more elements of a team as well. But that's the biggest thing to keep in mind, is that they have a common and shared purpose. They also will build on the strengths and competence of one another. So they're committed to each other and they're there to build each other up. Groups, on the other hand, can have many different people, and while they may be working on the same task or following the same procedure, there's no grouping of them. Well, there's a grouping of them, but there's no sense of loyalty between them. There's no sense of camaraderie between them. They don't have a shared purpose. They're just doing their job together in the same area. Sometimes I think about young children before they're able to really formulate friendships and stuff like that. They like to gather around other young children, but they all play independently. So they're all playing with dolls, but they're not playing together yet. They're just playing beside each other. And as we develop a team, we're actually interacting together, and everybody has a role and everybody has a purpose, and we work together in that. Teams are also more unified than groups. Although sometimes groups may have a brief moment of unity, like a sports, group of people that are cheering for sports and stuff like that. But once that event is over, they'll disband, where a team will remain together and often continue to have positive feelings for each other well past the existence of that group. Teams also have a sense of ownership. You have a title with it, a branding. I'm part of this. So that has a lot to do with that. Shared objectives. They have a culture of contribution. We all want to share. We all want to get to success. We all want to work together. They have a sense of trust that will develop, not always initially, but it should develop into a sense of trust with your teammates. And they often are involved in the decision making. Where in groups, you're not going to see that deliberate attempt to get everybody's opinion. In a team, everybody is part of the process, and that's really important to do so. How do you create a successful team? A couple of tips here for that. One is to discuss the team goals. So when the team gathers, they need to know why they're there. What is their purpose? What are they doing, and what is their role going to look like? So what is the goal of the team? How's it going to get there? So they can start thinking how they can best contribute. They need to clearly understand each member and their roles and their expectations. So, we go into the classroom like, oh, we got to introduce each other, we got to go through this, but it is really important because we help to understand who's there, what talents they bring, the skills they bring, what they want to contribute, and what they hope to get out of the project so that you can develop that cohesiveness. Another thing they do is they let team members emerge as the leaders. And that leadership doesn't have to always be the same person. On certain teams, it may be that one person steps up and takes the leadership because the area you're doing is their area of expertise. But then on the next meeting, it may be somebody else that's really taking the lead there because they're better at that thing you're addressing. So frequently, you're going to have one general leader, but that leader should be willing to share the leadership baton, so to speak, with others if those task managers are better at a particular thing. Teams will show respect for differences, and that's very important to be part of a successful team. You have to respect others and not shoot down their ideas, but really listen to them. Doesn't mean you have to change your mind, but you do need to be open to listening to them. And finally, they create a sense of urgency because they are all working together and they're interdependent. So it's not something we're going to put on the shelf and not come back to because others depend on me to be there and be successful. So that has a big push to it as well, and it helps to bring to success. So there are some great ideas on teams. We're just getting started. I've got a lot more, so I hope to see you very soon for another clip.